Ben Calhoun is our area manager for the South Carolina Business Development Center and our local SBDC contact for Lawrence County. His office is out of the Upper Savannah Council of Governments building in Greenwood, and he plans to resume his monthly Lawrence County Chamber Day in October. Is that still on?
Still on.
What's the date?
Today is the day.
Oh, you already done. Oh, we missed that one. We'll get in November. To make it more convenient for Lawrence County residents setting up in-person consulting situations, Ben is part of the SBDC Clemson University region and helps support small business in Greenwood, Lawrence, Edgefield, Abbeville, McCormick, and Saluda counties. My gosh, that's a lot of driving. Ben started his education as a financial management student at Clemson University and later earned his BS in business administration from the University of South Carolina, Aiken, and is currently an MBA candidate at Clemson. He has over 20 years professional experience in consumer finance, management, and consulting. In 2020, Ben was recognized as South Carolina's State Star Award, which is awarded each year to top business consultant in the state. Prior to coming on board with SBDC, say that 5 times fast, Ben served as the CFO for a nonprofit organization and owned a financial consulting business. As a former small business owner and supervisor, Ben appreciates the challenges entrepreneurs face on a day-to-day basis and enjoys seeing small businesses grow and thrive. Please help me welcome Ben Calhoun.
All right, thank you. It's kind of hard to believe it's been this long since I've spoken to this group, but I'm just curious, how many of you guys were here a couple years ago when Kevin Weir, our tech commercialization consultant, was with me? Is there anybody? Jonathan was here. All right, y'all would remember he's a British guy, had a cool accent. I don't have a cool accent, so I try to bring people with me that can keep your attention going. Today's going to be no exception. We got this guy, Earl, that you'll hear a little bit more about in a minute. It's way over in Ohio originally.
Ohio.
So there you go, Ohio. Yeah, I like the way you said that. Been a unique last year and a half for our organization, obviously. Earl and I were realizing on the way up that this was the first time we've actually seen each other in person in almost 2 years now. So definitely a timely message, I think, talking about cybersecurity with all of the shift that just by necessity we've been forced to use more technology than we usually do. So I'm excited to hear what Earl's going to share with you today. I think it's going to be relevant. So I promised that I would not take up a whole lot of time. I think most of you guys are probably familiar with the Small Business Development Center. If you're not, we are a national network, so there's SBDCs in all 50 states. In South Carolina, we've got funding support that comes federally from the SBA. Everybody knows who the SBA is, I think, after this last year of COVID relief and issues, but we're kind of their boots on the ground here locally. So one thing that I do want to make note of is that our services, our consulting services, are at no direct cost for any for-profit business that operates within the state. So locally, I'm the representative for Greenwood, Lawrence, Edgefield, Abbeville, McCormick, and Saluda. So anybody that has a for-profit business, just about any subject matter that you need help with, we can help you with it, or find a consultant that can help you with it. And that leads me to the introduction of my colleague that, again, I'm glad to be able to actually see in person again. But this is Earl Gregorich. He's our area manager from the Greenville office, and he was kind enough to volunteer his time to come and talk to you guys about cybersecurity, which is a really hot topic. I don't want to steal any of Earl's thunder, but I'm sure y'all have seen in the news all the issues that are possible there. And when we see it, we think about government and big business, but everybody that's in small business or really just private individuals, we have to be more aware of that than ever. Earl, as you can see here, is a very accomplished consultant. He was a regional director in Ohio before he came down and graced our presence in South Carolina. Moved down here, as a lot of folks from up there do, and kind of fall in love with it. But one of the things that I'm really excited about, I always find a way to mention it. I'm part of the Clemson region, so I'm a Clemson Tiger. I don't know how that fits with the crowd. Probably should have done a little homework. I thought Robbie Owens was going to be here, so I knew I'd have at least one supporter if this was a hostile crowd. But Earl actually made the decision. I kind of think of it like that salvation step. He left the South Carolina region and came to the Clemson region a little over, how long's it been now, 2 years?
Yeah, been a little over 2 years.
Well, over 2 years ago, so he's converted, and we're happy to have him as a part of our team, and I think you guys are really gonna enjoy the message that he delivers today. So if you will, please give a round of applause for our speaker today, is Earl Gregorich.
Thank you very much, and thank you for not clearing the room when you said I was from Ohio. So you never know what kind of reaction you're gonna get. You from Ohio? I can always count on at least 1 or 2 people being from up around Ohio. So yeah, I'd like to get people to tell them that I was actually sentenced to Columbia for about 3 years before they allowed me to come to Greenville. So it's been a trip to get here, but very, very happy to be where I am. So had great times in Columbia, and we're going to continue to have some great times here in Greenville. So I will start today's presentation with a little bit of a application story. So I've already shared this with Ben. I came down here from my office, and as it was, I had another engagement that I had to take care of before I could come up here and give this presentation. But I couldn't get the drive time and this and that one all worked out, so I had to make do. So I ended up down in the parking lot of McDonald's down here, using their free Wi-Fi to get on a Zoom session to give a presentation and support 2 or 3 other colleagues in their presentation. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you know, this is the very situation that I am about to go tell everybody to avoid, okay? So when we get to the part about protecting your network and talking about vertical private networks and stuff like that, I'll remind you of what I was doing in the parking lot down there. So we'll go ahead and get started here. And first thing I want to do is just kind of give you some idea of what resources are available to you with regards to cybersecurity. This is, you know, at best a dry topic. It is a difficult topic. We understand that as consultants in this arena. It is hard to get people in the room to talk about this very topic because everybody's just like, okay, how does it impact the bottom line? None of the rest of that stuff matters. How does it impact the bottom line? And I hope that you will be able to communicate that to you today. But some of the resources that you have available, we have as Ben said, we have a nationwide network of SBDCs out here. And as it were, we have a task force set up across the United States. I happen to be co-chair of that national cybersecurity task force. And our goal is to roll out information and much of the similar content that you're going to see today across the United States to small business owners. And our goal basically is to get everybody to become some level of cybersecure aware. I'm not here to certify you in any manner. I'm not here to turn you all into networking geeks or anything like that. I do simply want you to understand that as a small business, you need to be aware of what's going on because you are a target and it does impact your bottom line. So just be aware we have resources, we have vetted contacts that we can put you in front of if you have a need that goes beyond what we can provide you at the SBDC. And I can also tap several of my other peers within the network if there's something that we can bring to you that we think will be helpful. So when we operate as the SBDC and provide our content, it typically goes under the brand of North Star CMM. The reason for that is the bulk of our content is following what is put out by the Department of Defense for safe cyber practices for business. The reason we use that is, one, a lot of our small businesses are in some way or fashion a contractor, a subcontractor, or somehow attached to a supply line. And the Department of Defense has put forward requirements for businesses to do business with the government. And that is finding its way, is trickling its way down to small businesses in and around our towns right here. So if you are in a business that is dealing with data, dealing with information, that possibly is in support of a contractor, a subcontractor, whether it's a part that goes to another part that goes to another part that ends up on, say, a tank, you're involved. And eventually, some of these things that we're going to talk about today may find their way to your inbox. So just be aware that we are standards based under that DoD guideline with everything that we share with you. So hopefully that will keep you well in line. We're going to talk about the 6 different areas at a very high level to have an idea of what to expect from that. And we'll try to keep it as interesting as possible with a few stories here and there. So the first thing we have to do is we have to figure out what is it we need to protect. You might be sitting there thinking, okay, I don't have anything worth stealing. You know, no hacker's going to find any value in anything that I have in my systems, my computer, my cell phone, whatever device it is that you use to do business. But the fact of the matter is, the data that you have has value. Anybody want to take a stab at how much a hacker can get for a social security number right now on the web? How much would they sell it for? What do you think?
$20,000.
20 grand. Any other guesses? 50 is right. 50 what? 50 cents.
50 cents.
That's because it is so common for them to be able to find that data these days that it's not worth that much. Okay? If you are able to get the entire medical breakdown out of say a hospital's database of an individual, now we're talking somewhere around that $30,000 to $50,000 range for something like that. This is just a few dollars for personal information like name, address, phone number, social, all a actual fully assembled file. So you may be sitting there thinking, I don't have anything of value, but when you start thinking about it that way, think about how many client records you have in a customer database. Think about how many social security numbers maybe you have. Think about how many credit card numbers maybe have crossed through your point of sale system. All of that data is meaningful to a hacker. And it doesn't make any difference if you're Target or Joe's Auto Shop down on the corner. In fact, Joe's Auto Shop is a much, much better target for a hacker because guess what? They know Joe probably doesn't have any security whatsoever. So they're an easy target. So first thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself, what am I to protect and how do I go about doing so? I've listed some things here on the slide as to why that's important and some of the things that you may have in and around your office. So one thing that I want to point out with regards to protecting this information is don't instantly think dollar signs on your side as far as protecting it. Practically everything we're going to talk about today is a cultural change, a process change. Very, very little of it requires actually spending any money, okay? So keep that in mind as we go through some of this. Okay? So some of the primary considerations, and this is right out of the standards for cybersecurity, identifying those areas, that information we just discussed that needs to be protected first and foremost. How are we going to protect it? What systems and data do we have in place, and what systems and data do we need to put in place to keep this safe? How might we detect the fact that we have been hacked or we are under attack? Larger companies have a lot of infrastructure in place to be able to tell when there's traffic on their network or a piece of equipment's been accessed it shouldn't have, or a piece of data that was there yesterday is now over here, and so on. They've got a lot of stuff in place to make that happen, but most of our small businesses don't have that infrastructure. So we have to come up with other ways that we can work to detect that, and we'll talk about some of those today. And then in the event that you do get attacked and become a victim of cyber attack, how are you going to respond and how are you going to recover? There are legal obligations to you reporting the fact that you have been attacked, and if you've been listening to the news at all today, you've probably been hearing some of those rumblings They're actually going to start instituting fines now if you do not report your attacks to the government when they occur. And in some cases, if you're a contractor, like I said, a Department of Defense contractor, those fines will be daily. So it's not just one fine and you're done. You're getting fined for every day you did not report it. So be aware that if we don't take a proactive approach to handling cybersecurity as a small business, unfortunately somebody's going to step in and do it for us, and none of us want that, I don't believe. Okay. So again, just focus on the critical information that you have, and again, there's some examples there. You've probably seen some of these acronyms at the bottom of the slide there, especially if maybe you work within the medical field. PII is probably the most common one. That's personal information that practically every small business will have in their databases. So again, if you see anything up there that looks familiar, then you have something of value. The best thing I can tell you about the data that you have is to take stock in what you absolutely need to have, what you can get rid of, and how long you must keep it. If you have possession of it, you are responsible for it, and therefore it creates a liability for you from the standpoint of cybersecurity. As soon as you can no longer, or as soon as you can get along business-wise by no longer keeping that data, you need to get rid of that data in the proper manner. So just be aware, that's one of the first things that you can do. And again, that step right there doesn't cost you anything. It's just a matter of process. Reviewing your files, getting rid of things that you don't absolutely have to continue to maintain. So some of the vulnerabilities that you've probably heard of and you are facing every day, whether you realize it or not. Certainly viruses. These typically are in the form of some kind of a file that you have downloaded or come on a thumb drive maybe that you've been handed by a client. Maybe something that's come to you across the internet. Maybe a website that you have errantly arrived on and picked up a virus. Spyware. This is a form of software that will reside on your systems and just sit there without your knowledge and keep track of what's going on. Typically, it will keep track of all your keystrokes and the like, and that information then is bundled up and sent off to the hacker, where they can then go back through that information at their leisure and figure out, oh, that looks like a password login combination. That looks like a social security number. That looks like a whatever. So that's the kind of software we're talking about when we talk about spyware. Very common. And unfortunately, if you're not running some kind of antivirus program, you probably don't realize this is going on in the background. And then the third one there, Trojan horse, this is more of a delivery system for the prior two. This is typically a situation where maybe you get a file from a customer, or so you think, and that file is brought to your system. You open that file up, and that file then launches, say, a virus or a spyware type of an attack. So these are just some things that you may be hearing of in and around cyber attacks. So some of the common threats, the number one threat is your employees and yourself, for that matter. You know, the thing of it is, if we could, and it sounds crazy and a little dystopian, but if we could turn this entire thing over to the machines and just let it run and never put a human in the middle of it, it'd probably be fine. We wouldn't have any cyber attacks. We wouldn't have any issues. But the second we put a human in there, me included, I'm in and around these circles, I'm a human just like you guys are, and I can fall victim to this stuff just like you can. That's where we run into problems. So your employees are the biggest issue that you have to work with. From there, you see phishing up there. Phishing is something you're hearing on the news a lot. This is, again, a method of getting to you, be it through an email transaction, be it on the phone, sometimes even face-to-face, believe it or not. If you get a phone call and somebody calls up and they just simply ask a question, well, thank you very much, and they hang up, and you're thinking, what they need that for? And then maybe a day or so later, somebody else calls and they ask a question and they hang up. Eventually, they're piecing all this stuff together to build what they need to get what they need within the company. Think about, here's an example. Think about what the front office person knows about everybody in the building at any given time. If somebody comes in and says, hey, I need to speak to the president today, and that front office person says, I'm sorry, the president is not in. Oh, where is he or she? Oh, they're on vacation. Well, you know when they'll be back? Well, they should be back next week. Oh, well, who else could I talk to? Well, you can talk to Joe, he's the accountant. He fills in when the president's not here. Okay, thank you very much. I don't think so. I won't. This person now can leave, generate an email to Joe saying, hey, this is the president. I need you to transfer funds from here to here. I'm on the road. This deal just came through. We got to act fast. You got to get this check cut. Joe, unbeknownst, makes the transfer because Joe knows he's out of town. He's on the road. So on. So this is an example of a phishing attack that doesn't have anything to do with a computer. A lot of times this will also happen by email, but it can happen in person. So that's an example of phishing. Email spoofing. We get these all the time. Ben sees them, I see them. We have Clemson email addresses. So everything is at clemson.edu. And we will, on occasion, we'll get an email and it comes in CLERNSON. At a glance, that looks exactly like Clemson. And you don't think anything of it, click, infected. Okay? That's an example of email spoofing. They're giving some variation of what is a real email. Ransomware, oh, every day, right? You hear somebody is getting locked up for ransomware. I happened to be on the road in Ohio when the pipeline thing happened. In my Jeep, no less, which is really good on gas, right? So yeah, we had to buy a gas can somewhere in Ohio so we could fill up that gas can in Tennessee to get us the rest of the way home if we were to run out of fuel with the gas station. So the ransomware thing is huge. And again, it doesn't make any difference how big or how small you are. They can use that against you, and it is not a pretty picture no matter how it works out. Social engineering and brute force attacks. Social engineering basically is they're going through your social media files. You know, we tell our kids all the time, be careful what you post out there. That's not going to come back to bite you sometime. And usually we're thinking from the standpoint of the next interview that they go for a job or something like that. Well, you just as well. If somebody goes to my LinkedIn account, they're going to see that I work for the government. I am a part of a university. I happen to have an interest in cybersecurity. Well, I've already got high marks for any hacker right there, just with those three things. And they're going to go through my profile, pull the information they need, and try to use that maybe to get into some systems. So think about what you're putting out there on those profiles and how that might be used to gain access to your business or your personal life. Have I thoroughly scared everybody enough at this point? All right, good. All right, so I just want to quickly go through some of the things we can do to help prevent this. This is in line, like I said, with the CMMC, which stands for Cyber Security Maturity Model Certification. And that's the guidance from the Department of Defense. So the first thing is access control. Makes sense. When you leave your home, you walk away from your car, you lock the doors to your house. Why wouldn't you lock up your computer? So if we were to leave this room and that laptop is sitting there, we would lock that down so that nobody could use it. Access control. This also includes your building, access to any of the devices that might communicate over the internet. The Wi-Fi connection I had at McDonald's, all that access control is what we're talking about here. Somebody should not just be able to walk in and view a laptop, sit down behind a keyboard, access the router that brings the internet connection into the building, log into your Wi-Fi network without any issues. None of that should take place in a small business. If you're afraid that that's happening, you need to give us a call so we can get you in front of the right people to get that corrected. Next one is identification and authentication. So on this one, basically, you need to make sure that if you are giving people access, they are the people that you think they are, okay? So yeah, we have a login and we have a password that supposedly belongs to one individual. And hopefully that is the case for all of our small businesses. But I know that there are businesses out there that operate with a login, a password, and everybody in the operation uses the same one. Not a good situation. Somebody leaves, somebody's talking to friends, somebody gets angry, they're fired, whatever, they give that to whoever, and now that's out and about. Nobody wants to change it because then they're gonna change it for everybody, that's just a pain, right? It's that kind of stuff that makes you an easy target. So making sure that you can identify individually who's on your network and that they all have individual logins, passwords. Multi-factor authentication is another big thing. The head of CISA, which is the government's basically marketing arm for all things cybersecurity, for lack of better terms anyway, she was quoted just in the last few days. She said there's one thing that you can do that will mitigate the risk as a small business owner against all the cyber attacks out there. And she said, do multi-factor authentication on access to your systems. That'll reduce the possibility of you getting attacked by 99%. So you're familiar with this, you probably used it today. If you've accessed a bank account or any account of a larger corporation, a government entity or something like that, you've had to log in and then get your phone out, get the code, type the code in, whatever. Maybe you have a thumb drive that goes into the laptop that proves that you are who you are, but something along those lines, something that requires 2 sets of credentials in order to enter into a system. If you're doing that, you can tremendously kill the chances of somebody hacking your systems. Media protection. So I mentioned thumb drives earlier. They're not as common as they once were, but they're still out there. And a common way for a hacker to get into your system is just to casually drop a thumb drive in the parking lot. Somebody's going to drop by and pick that up and put it in a computer. If it's in the parking lot of your business, where do you suppose they might put that in a computer? Well, they don't want to put it in a home because they don't want any virus, right? Do it at work. So beware of thumb drives. Thumb drives both from the outside and both on the inside. If you have thumb drives and you're using these regularly, make sure your employees understand that that's not just a little $2 or $3 device that can easily be replaced. Yeah, the device is a couple of dollars, but what's on it? Does that have a spreadsheet with all of the payroll information on it? Does it have your client database on it? Does it have sales proposals on it? That's where the value is. And even if no hacker picks it up, what if it ends up in the hands of your competition? What if it ends up in the hands of a disgruntled employee? Not a good situation. So be aware of thumb drives. Other things with media protection that I will also mention is when you are destroying or getting rid of equipment, make sure you are wiping all of that equipment. How many of us realize that a copier has a hard drive in it? Some of your larger printers have hard drives in them. And if you just simply unplug it and take it down and drop it off at Goodwill or wherever you're going to take it, everything that has been sent to that device for who knows how long, it resides on that hard drive. and you just gave it away. So make sure you understand what you're sending out the door, and make sure you have cleaned, sanitized, or destroyed it properly before it goes out. Physical protection. So this goes back to some of the things I was talking about earlier about the access control when we talk about putting things behind locked doors. Probably the biggest culprit here would be, where's your internet come into your building? I can probably guess on most small businesses when I walk in the door where it's going to be. If it's a restaurant or a retail establishment, it's probably under the counter, near the point of sale system, stuck up on a shelf somewhere, all to its own. And it's not a hard thing for me to come in and say, you know, I'm here, we're working on the phones down on the corner. I need to check your phone lines. Where, let me see, yeah, it looks like they come in under here. Hold on just a second. I plug into your router, I'm in your system. Simple as that. And most of the people who are standing at the front counter don't have any idea that that's what could possibly be happening, so why do they question it, right? So it's that kind of physical protection we're talking about. Make sure your access points are locked down. Simple as that. Again, none of these things are costing you any money. It's all processed. System and communications. So this is where the McDonald's thing come back up again. So physical and virtual controls protecting stored data and data in transit. So I'm sitting there in the parking lot and I'm doing my thing. Maybe I'm checking some emails while I'm there. All of that data that's traveling from the Jeep to the router in McDonald's and out of the router at McDonald's out into the internet is accessible, especially that short wireless connection between me and McDonald's. And anybody who happens to be wandering around for the purposes of hacking can listen in on that little part of that conversation. And they can pick up that data. So, how do we protect against that? Well, there's this thing called a virtual private network, a VPN. A lot of us have probably heard of that. It's not that difficult to do. There are free VPNs available online. We can give you some recommendations on that. If, like Ben and I, we have VPNs that come with our access to Clemson. So before I logged on to everything I needed to do today, sitting at McDonald's, I invoked my VPN. And what that does, basically, it scrambles everything that goes from that laptop in my Jeep to the McDonald's router, such that if anybody were to listen in on it, they wouldn't be able to make heads or tails of it. So, just again, something very simple like that can protect you, and again, it does not cost you a ton of money. Systems and information integrity. So this one is probably the geekiest part of all of it. This one involves your ability to make sure that there's no unusual activity on your network, that you're monitoring what is going on with the files that you have, that you're auditing your equipment properly, and so on. So this may be something as simple as adding a piece of software to your cell phone, taking advantage of some of the things that are already loaded through your operating system, like Windows. I know my router that I have at my home has a monitoring device. All I have to do is fire up the app and I can tell you who's on my router. And if I see anything at all on there that is not mine, you know, it gets the axe, right? So it's just something like that every once in a while, occasionally during your day, you open it up and make sure that all the traffic on your business devices are legitimate. It doesn't take a lot of time. And like I said, mine anyway, came with the router. So it shouldn't cost you anything for the software either. So some other things that I'll mention. The process of hiring and offloading, that didn't sound right. Hiring and firing employees. That needs to be a process that also includes cybersecurity and some of the steps that we're talking about. Are you collecting all the thumb drives that they have? Did you shut down the data access that they had prior to having that exit interview? Whatever processes need to be in place to take keys back, those types of things. If that's not incorporated in your onboarding and your exit interviews, you're opening yourself up to possible trouble. Social media and online content, make sure that you have a social media policy. You may think, I know all my employees, they're pretty good people, they're not gonna do it. Yeah, okay. That's about right until the time that they are fired, right? Or they become unhappy with their workspace. We've heard all kinds of stories of people posting crazy things to the internet, social media platforms at their workplace. You don't want that to happen. Make sure you have some policies in place. Other things that get overlooked, I mentioned some of the hardware items, the copiers, the point of sale systems, and printers. The point of sale system actually in a business is probably one of the riskiest internal devices to a business when it comes to cybersecurity. It's hard to lock down. A lot of people don't understand all the ins and outs of operating it, and somebody who's savvy at getting a transaction in there that maybe shouldn't be, it'll be easy for them to accomplish that. So be aware. Point of sale is something you want to keep a close eye on. Mobile technology, make sure that your cell phones, if you are entrusting your employees to use their own cell phones to do business, think of the data that's going to walk out with them when they leave. And all that contact list that they have now in their phone, possibly files that have been traded back and forth with clients, these are things that you need to lock down. Same way with company laptops. Make sure you're also testing your backups and your users on a regular basis when you're communicating this type of information to them. If you're taking backups of your data, which you should be, and you're not testing those backups, you may be sadly surprised when you go to restore from that backup and find out it doesn't work. So periodically, bring a backup back in, restore from that, and see if everything is as it should be. That should be part of your regular testing. So about this point in my conversation with most clients, they're like, okay, enough's enough. This isn't going to work for me. I got all kinds of reasons why I don't want to do this, and you're seeing some of them up there on the screen. But as I opened up here, I just wanted to tell you again, this is not a lot of money. It's not even a lot of time. It's just a matter of thinking through, is this the right thing or the wrong thing I should be doing with regards to cybersecurity? Change the process, change the culture, and make this part of your day-to-day operations. In the end, it's all about protecting the bottom line. It's all about protecting your reputation. You work hard to build the value in your business so that someday you can get that back. You're hoping that somebody doesn't come along like a cyber attacker and steal it or degrade it or whatever. You worked too hard for that. So all those things that I said in the beginning to scare you, that's not why I said it. I said it so that you understand that the threats are there and they will steal the value, the hard work that you have wrapped up in your business. That's what you have to guard against. So we've got some educational tools and things that you can do to help yourself, and you can work with the SBDC consultants as well. Go ahead. As I said, it's more process. Start with the leadership within the business. Make sure you are setting the tone that cyber is important. As the owner, as the manager, all the way down the line, make sure that they understand the leadership is behind the fact that as a culture in the business, cybersecurity is important. Create a no-fault atmosphere. I said earlier, we're all human, and I can be a victim just as quickly as you are. So if you're going at this as I'm the boss, if anybody in here gets hacked, if we find out you clicked on the email, you're out. That is the wrong way to go about it, because guess what? that finger you're pointing might have to be pointing this direction at some point, right? So this should be, come to me, tell me what happened, because we need to get it fixed immediately. And be forever educating those employees so they know what they're looking for. And don't be complacent. Don't sit there and think, I'm small. This is not going to happen to me. You are very much a target. Let's do it. There are downloadable guides on some of the things that we talked about today. The cybersecurity do's and don'ts is just a one pager that you can download and just kind of put in front of your employees and say, these are some of the things that we want you to be thinking about, things not to do, things to do. There's also one there that helps identify what is that critical information that you should be protecting. So it will outline specifics on some of those items as well. And of course, if there's something that you need to work through, Ben, myself, our cybersecurity team is available to work through this with you. We have checklists, we have assessments that we can help you with. They're not technically challenging. They are all non-geeky type of applications, so we're here to help you through that step by step. Do we have any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Several times a year, I'll get a notice from some Facebook friend, I've been hacked, don't accept any friend requests. So my question is, what is it the hackers are getting when they do that?
So if somebody is able to take over a social media account, they have the ability to, one, drive your profile at that point. So they can make you be whoever they want you to be at that point to the outside world. Two, they have access maybe to some of the background information that you don't make public. So maybe you go in there and you say, yeah, my birthday's in September, but I'm not giving you the year, right? But that's held in the background, and if I have access to your account, I can actually find the year, which is a critical piece of information if I want to apply for a loan. So there's that, and then of course there's the smear campaign that they can then come back to you and say, yeah, you want that unsavory picture taken off your Facebook? Pay up, I'll take it off. So that kind of stuff can happen.
Usually with that though, don't you see, like, I'll see the same kind of thing, but it's like a spoofed account, a second account. What good does that do?
So again, they're using that as more leverage in a blackmail type of a scenario. They're saying, yeah, you still have your account, but we spoofed your account, and it's going to have stuff up there you don't want associated with yourself, and you can pay it to get rid of it.
And I'll just add to that, when you get one of those, if you don't get that notification beforehand, and you get a private message from that person that you know, you may be likely to share information with them that you wouldn't otherwise. So that's kind of another angle that you just have to be on the lookout for when it comes to social media.
Yeah, they'll spoof accounts and then beg for money using your name. And my father-in-law actually almost fell victim that somebody called their house claiming that my son was in Germany in jail. And he was reaching for the checkbook in tears, this man was. And luckily, another family member was able to step in and catch that before it occurred. So they have no scruples, folks.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful. Ben, Earl, we appreciate you being here. Great information. Thank you guys very much. Remember, backpack tomorrow at 9:30. District Governor visit next week. Board at noon. Meeting at 1. Any other announcements for the club? If you would please stand and join me in our four-way test. Our motto. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And our motto: serve to change lives, Rotarians.